Bismillah. Yeah.
And then you do it like so you maybe want to start. However, honestly, I was like, I want to go to it now. JB.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد يحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا يحسب أن لم يره أحد. صدق الله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا شفيع الأمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا وجيحا عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين، يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي، أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد، أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا يا الله، يا أبا إبراهيم يا موسى بن جعفر، أيها القاذم يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى، أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها الله، اشفع لنا عند يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي، أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد، أيها الحادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي والأصغري ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وسيع الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيه عند الله اشفع لنا الله حاجات. يا ساداتي ومواليا إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا ساداتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
अब्बास कत्ल हो गए महशर हुआ बपा अब्बास कत्ल हो गए महशर हुआ बपा बेकस इमाम हो गए भाई हुआ जुदा अब्बास कत्ल हो गए अब खत्म है लड़ाई अलमदार चल बसा अब खत्म है लड़ाई अलमदार चल बसा दौरे इमाम कहते हुए हाय ये क्या हुआ अब्बास कत्ल हो گئے. پہنچے جو گرتے پڑتے تو دیکھا یہ حال زار. پہنچے جو گرتے پڑتے تو دیکھا یہ حال زار. شان قلم ہے شعر ہے زخمی پڑا ہوا عباس قتل ہو گئے. بولے لپٹ کے غازی سے کچھ تو کرو کلام. بولے لپٹ کے غازی سے کچھ تو کرو کلام. کیا حال ہو گیا میرے بھائی یہ کیا ہوا عباس قتل ہو گئے. کیوں آنکھ کھول کر ہمیں تم دیکھتے نہیں. کیوں آنکھ کھول کر ہمیں تم دیکھتے نہیں. عباس بولے تیر ہے مولا لگا ہوا عباس قتل ہو گئے. پیاسی سکینہ سے میں بہت شرمسار ہوں. پیاسی سکینہ سے میں بہت شرمسار ہوں. افسوس ہے کہ وعدہ نہ مجھ سے وفا ہوا عباس قتل ہو گئے. یہ کہہ رہے تھے آئی جو دو چار ہچکیاں. یہ کہہ رہے تھے آئی جو دو چار ہچکیاں. دیکھا امام نے کہ من کا جلا ہوا عباس قتل ہو گئے. لائے امام مشک و علم خیمگاہ میں. لائے امام مشک و علم خیمگاہ میں. چلائی بی بیا کے علمدار کیا ہوا عباس قتل ہو گئے. محشر ہوا بپا بے کس امام ہو گئے، بھائی ہوا جدا، محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔
محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔ آواز بلند صلوات۔ آل عمران کہاں، آل عمران کہاں، اور زندان کہاں، یہ بہن قید ہوئی تو نہ آیا غازی، جبر تاثر سے چھنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی، ہم کو پانی نہ ملے تیری خوشبو تو رہے، تیرے بازو نہ کٹے چاہے مشکی زاچ دے، یہ مگر ہو نہ سکا، یہ مگر ہو نہ سکا، تیرے بازو ہے جدا، مجھ پہ ہے تشنا نبی تو نہ آیا غازی، اور دھوپ میں تو تھا شجر، تجھ سے آباد تھا گھر، ہے برہنہ میرا سر، کیا نہیں تجھ کو خبر، اے علمدار وفا اس بہن کو باخدا، تجھ سے ڈھارس تھی بڑی تو نہ آیا غازی، اور آ گئی شام لٹ گئے ہیں لے حرم، ریت پر جلتی ہوئی ہو گیا ٹھنڈا عالم، پرسہ دینے کے لیے، ارے پرسہ دینے کے لیے، مجھ سے ملنے کے لیے آ گئے بابا علی تو نہ آیا غازی، قید خانے میں قضا، ارے جب سکینہ کو ملی، دے کے کہتے کا کفن بچی دفنائی گئی، اس گھڑی نام تیرا صورت ناد علی، دکھ میں دہراتے روتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی. اور کتنی بے بس تھی بہر اے شہنشاہ وفا، نام لے لے کے میرا جب یہ ظالم نے کہا، ناز تھا جس پہ تجھے، ناز تھا جس پہ تجھے، اب بلاؤ نہ اسے، اور میں روتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چھنی میں صدا دیتی رہی، ہے تو نہ آیا غازی. محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
برائے تعجیل ظہور امام زمانہ بلندتر صلوات. I would request you all to please maintain social distance while the program is going on. And we also request you to please keep your face mask on throughout the program. In case you need any, they are available upstairs. I would like to request for a Surah Fatiha for all marhumin of Haji Jafar, all marhumin of Mukhtar Ali Bhai, marhuma Afifa and marhuma Alina Dar Bhai, all marhumin of Ibrahim Hassan Ali Jan Muhammad, all marhumin of Asghar Ali, Hassan Ali, Qasim Ali, marhumin of all who are present here tonight, and for all those marhumin who do not have anyone to pray for. Al-Fatiha. برائے تعجیل ظہور امام زمانہ بلندتر صلوات. حبیب خدا اشرف الانبیاء صلوات.
أمير المؤمنين صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد. رحم الله من قرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله بارئ الخلائق الأجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء، حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما ولي الله الحجة ابن الحسن صاحب الأمر والزمان. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة وواب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب الغرباء، يا مظلوم كربلاء، السلام على من جعل الله الشفاء في تربته، السلام على من الإجابة تحت قبته، السلام على ساكن كربلاء، فيا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا وكنا معكم سادتي، يا سادتي، فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، قال مولانا إمام أبو محمد الحسن بن علي العسقري صلوات الله وسلامه عليه: اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. علامات المؤمن 5: 51 صلوات، 51 ركعات، وزيارة 40، وتحفير الجبين، والجحر ببسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والتختم باليمين. صدق الإمام وآمنا به. نوروا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. A second salawat for the قضاء الحوائج وشفاء المرضى. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. And the third of your loudest salawat to gain the pleasure of Sayyidat Nisa al-Alameen, Sayyidah Fatimah al-Zahra alayha as-salam. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. أحبائي, you find within ayat of the Holy Quran a number of verses through which we are able to understand what the alamat or what the sifat of a mu'min are. And in addition to the verses of the Quran, you find that you have hadith of Ahlul Bayt that supplement on one hand, and on the other hand complement the verses of the Quran that outline the sifat and the alamat of a mu'min. And it is absolutely important for us to be able to list down, and you can say almost make a line item of those characteristics through which a mu'min is recognized, or those characteristics which a mu'min is supposed to possess. Because at the end of the day, this Imam, Sayyidul Wasiyyin, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajjal farajah, who we refer to with the title Amirul Mu'mineen, yani the Prince of the Mu'mineen, the Master of the Mu'mineen. If I was to bring myself under the parameters and the domain of his mastership, he is the Amir of the Mu'mineen, then I need to see what can I do to fit myself within this parameter of the Mu'mineen, because he is the Amir in that sense. For hence, sifat and characteristics through which I qualify to become a mu'min, sifat, alamat, which I need to cultivate within myself to be within these parameters of the mu'minin. And you find that in the beginning of Shahrul Muharram, we spoke about one of these signs that are mentioned within the hadith of the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Where he says, Inna liqatlil Husayn hararatan fi qulubil mu'minina la tabrudu abada. And we went on to explain to a great extent, kalima kalima, and perhaps there was last parts of this hadith for which inshallah, if we have a future majlis, we shall complete that. But one of the signs of the mu'min is that he has this burning sensation when it comes to the aza of Sayyid al-Shuhada, when it comes to the massacre of Imam al-Hussein, the commemoration of Sayyid al-Shuhada, hararatil inna liqatl al-Hussein hararatan fi qulub al-mu'minin. This harara, this burning passion. Ahibai, Imam al-Hussein and Ashura has remained alive because of the passion. And you find this is what has distinguished this historical event from all other historical events, such that every Ashura, it is as if Imam al-Hussein is being shaheed today, as if he is being shaheed now. And the greatest dalil is the fitrah. You notice when the maqtal is being recited of Sayyid al-Shuhada, you're not in your mind when you are listening to this maqtal. It is not about you sitting and thinking about, this is what happened 1400 years ago. As they are narrating the maqtal, step by step, what happened to Sayyid al-Shuhada, it is as if now this is happening to Imam al-Hussein. And when you enter into the majlis, Sham-e Ghariban, and the narrations are brought in front of you about how the Khaymaga are burnt. You don't think 1400 years ago the Khaymaga was burnt. La, enter for you. Now in the majlis, the Khaymaga is burning in front of you. And this shu'ur, this ability to be able to engage with Ashura, and the overflow of passion that comes with this. Hibai, Rasulullah says this is from the alamat of a mu'min. Because Rasulullah said, Inna liqatl al-Husayn hararatan fi qulub al-mu'mineen. And we explained from a grammatical perspective how this qulub al-mu'mineen is muqayyad, yani within the hearts of the mu'min. You don't find this passion in the heart of the fasiq or in the mukassir or in any other person. La. So this grief has a level of ihtiram towards it. This is one. And we spoke about this. Moving on, you find that one aspect, wa intum ahibai, you are all scholars of the religion of Islam, and you are students of Ahlul Bayt. Fa'ahna, these buhuth that we have are only indexes that give you rule of thumb on how you in your own time are able to structure your studies and your research, and then inshallah the next stage is implementation. فإحنا all of us are students in this movement. For you find that this is one hadith of Rasulullah in regards to alamat al-mu'min, the passion that is there. And then you come and you find that Imam al-Askari, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil faraja, adds and outlines for us 5 other characteristics of a mu'min. And you complement what Rasulullah has said to what Imam al-Askari has said, and you have a list of 6. And so on and so forth. You start taking from the hadith of Imam al-Hassan, and from Sayyid al-Shuhada, and the Imamain al-Baqirain and Sadiqain, and you find this entire list of what you are supposed to cultivate within you, and you have your life purpose in front of you. You know how they have, when you establish a new business, they have this charter of their goals and the purpose of their existence. And Habibi, through these hadith of Ahlul Bayt, you have this sifat in front of you. This is, in essence, the sirat. For you find our 11th Imam, alayhi salam, outlines for us 5 characteristics. Hadith Sharif states, Alamat al-Mu'min khams. He goes on to say there are 5 characteristics of a mu'min. Number 1, Salat ihda wa khamseen. You have the recitation of 51 rak'ahs on any given day. This is an ishara towards the salat that are wajib together with the nawafil. And you know, with the nawafil, there are very many rules. Even when it comes to the fiqh, there are a number of regulations that are stipulated for the nafilah, in which there is tarkhis, where there is rukhsa, there is flexibility. For you find, and this is a bahath fiqhi, and we refer back to those who are mutakhassisin, those who are specialists within the books of fiqh, and you will find that they will tell you, in a nutshell, you refer back to mustahab salat. It is permissible for you to recite it standing, just like the way it is permissible for you to recite it sitting. Even if there is no excuse for you to not sit, you can recite mustahab salat. We're talking mustahab as in mustahab, not anything unless stipulated otherwise by the books of the fiqh. But the nafilah or the mustahab on its own, la, standing or sitting, many cases, the second surah is not necessary to recite. Sajdatul Sahaw is not necessary to recite. Salatul Mustahabba or Nafilah, Fuqaha have established within the books that Salatul Mustahabba Nafilah can be recited even while you are walking, even while you are seated in a car, and you don't have to be stationary. And in many cases, the condition of facing Qibla is also exempt, such that through a Mustahab Salat, any person walking from here to there can have the niyyah of reciting his Salat al-Mustahabbah and continue in that way. And the books of fiqh from our maraja are sufficient for a person to refer back to and expand on that. You find 11th Imam says, first alama from the alamat of a mu'min, raka'at, 51. Number 2, you find that the Imam comes forward and says the second alamat of a mu'min is that at-takhattum bil-yamin. One of the signs through which the mu'min is recognized is the fact that he wears the ring on the right hand. And you notice that over here, the word takhattum, to wear a ring on the right hand, takhattum is a word that is mutlaq in terms of ring, any type of ring. However, when you delve into the hadith, you will find that there are certain rings that have been granted importance, that have got a divine nature attached to it, has an impact on the ruh and has an impact on the kawn around you, on the environment around you. For example, what is understood straight away from takhattum bil yamin is the istihbab, the recommendation to wear the aqiq ring on the right. And you know the aqiq, when you find these 5 signs from the signs that are narrated by Imam al-Askari, you will find each and every one of these echo out wilaya of Ali Muhammad, because these are characteristics that distinguish you in regards to who you are affiliated with from an ideological perspective. شوفوا تختم باليمين, to wear the aqiq ring, any ring, but we will specialize on the aqiq. Ring on the right hand. The first question is, why wear on the right and not wear on the left? Bain al-Qawsayn. I open a bracket real quick from a fiqh perspective and delve back into our subject. It is makruh to wear a ring on the left as a concept. However, ulama come forward and say that if you wear a ring on your right and then you wear a ring on your left, then the kiraha, the fact that it is makruh, decreases. So long as you are wearing a ring on your right, you can also wear on the left. However, to wear on the left on its own without a ring on the right, la makruh, we have this. And there is great reason behind this. But alamat al-mu'min, to wear the ring on the right. Why the right hand being a distinctive feature for the character of a mu'min? What does that have to do? Ahibai, the roots for this go back a long way. You find that in the battle of Siffin, when Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam had commanded the army to go forward and to continue the attack against the camp of Muawiyah, and you have the Khawarij within the army of Amir al-Mu'mineen who had planned a mutiny. There was a prior arrangement with Muawiyah, and there were people from the camp of Muawiyah residing within the camp of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and they make the fort from within weaker. See, Ahbai, when it comes to religion, when it comes to politics, when it comes to a country's progress, whether it comes to a community's progress, the greatest enemy is not the enemy who is against you. It's the enemy who is within you. It's the greatest danger. And you find that an entire surah was revealed in the Quran for this. Surah Al-Munafiqeen, which we are supposed to recite every Friday. Muslims have to recite every Friday. Why? What is munafiqs? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way He speaks, refer back to Surah Al-Munafiqeen. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about these hypocrites, the manner in which Allah Azza wa Jal speaks to them, and the lahja, the tone that is used by the Lord of the universe, is much more harsher than what is used against the mushrikeen and the kuffar. Intum raji'u, return back and see from the Quran, the lahja, the tone that is used by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? What is munafiqeen? They are people who used to pray with Rasulullah. They used to surround Rasulullah. They used to sit with him. They used to eat with him. They did the Umrah with him. They did the Hajj with him. They went to war with him. They sat with him. They were the first ones to listen to the revelation. But they were the ones closest to the Prophet ended up becoming the biggest threat. And this is a lesson until the end of humanity. Through. And contemporary history is also witness, if you were to read through. Tayyib. Amir al-Mu'mineen calls forward, there's a mutiny that happens, and within the mutiny it is decided that there is going to be tahakkum or tahkim, that there is going to be a mutual understanding to resolve the conflict between the side of Muawiyah al-La'in and the side of Amir. For who comes forward? Amr ibn As on the other side of Muawiyah. And you have Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari from the side of Amir al-Mu'mineen, who was not even the choice of Amir al-Mu'mineen, nor the representative of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Hi, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, if you were to read his biography, Rajul Ajib Jiddan, Rajul Gharib Jiddan. And you find many likes of them in our communities, in our surroundings. When I say community, I don't mean anything or any community in particular. I mean Ithna Ashari in general, or even outside of Ithna Ashari, within the Muslim world. We keep it general. Find a lot of people, and the idea is for us to learn from history so we don't become like that. You know who was Abu Musa Ash'ari? Abu Musa al-Ash'ari was a person who used to recite salat, used to perform Sawm. Oh, ya laha min Sawm. Most of his time he spent fasting. He was always with his misbah and tasbih and beard and humbleness. Salam alaikum, salam alaikum. But he also liked that people will praise him and raise him. They will say to him, MashaAllah, you're so humble. MashaAllah, you have so much taqwa. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, karta karta, the way they say in Gujarati, took him to Nar Jahannam wa bi'sal masir. Because they found this is the perfect scapegoat. الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار. Allah Azza wa Jal says, أجلكم like donkeys. And this love for praise, you are mashallah, so much taqwa, so much this, so much that. They found this as a weakness. They exploited this weakness. And this weakness was now used to compromise the position of the army of Amir al-Mu'minin. Ala kullin, our kalam on the right finger, more. For they went, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari and Amr ibn As, they have this agreement between them that they are going to come to a tahkim and they are going to come to an agreement to resolve the conflict. Amr ibn As tricks Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. The sign of tricking them was what? Abu Musa al-Ash'ari said to him, listen, or Amr ibn As said to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, the only way we can come out of this war is that you denounce yourself, you denounce and you proclaim the fact that you disassociate from your leader, and I say I disassociate from my leader. Both our leaders, we disassociate from them, the war finishes over here. Musa said, all right, fine, we'll do that. That's a fair call. See this thing of Bismillah, Bismillah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Abu Amr ibn As said to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, okay, who makes the announcement first? Because Abu Musa al-Ash'ari is to say, I disassociate myself from Amir al-Mu'minin. Amr ibn As is supposed to say, I disassociate myself from Muawiyah. And this way, because the two designated people have disassociated themselves from the leader, war is over. Amr ibn As says, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, Inta Shaykhuna, you are our Shaykh, and you recite Salat and Sawm and Taqwa. How can I make an announcement in front of you in public? Astaghfirullah. Ihtaram dictates you go and make your statement first. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari bought into this. He went and he said, Ya Jama'ah, I disassociate myself from Ali ibn Abi Talib. And the proof for this disassociation is that I remove my ring from my right hand and I put it on my left hand. He came back down. He said to Amr ibn As, Yalla Bismillah, go and disassociate from my leader. Amr ibn As played him. He went up on the minbar and he said, Shabab, ya Jama'ah, you have seen how Abu Musa al-Ash'ari has disassociated himself from Amir al-Mu'minin. Ali, or from Ali ibn Abi Talib. I reinforce that I am with Muawiyah and Haqq is with Muawiyah. Character of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. See what pushed him to Nar Jahannam. In any case, in the tahakkum what happened, or in the tahkim what happened, to disassociate himself from Amir al-Mu'minin, he removed the ring from the right hand and he put it on the left hand. We wear the ring on the right hand to establish the fact that we are from the Shias and from the lovers of Amir al-Mu'minin. And hence it became the sign of a mu'min. Number two, you have also throughout time, you have scholars such as Ghazali who state that along history, we, the Mukhalifin, used to wear the ring on the left hand on purpose to distinguish ourselves from the Shia who wear rings on the right hand. So wearing the ring on the right hand became a concrete symbol through which your affiliation to Amir al-Mu'minin is recognized. Then comes the stone. We have within our hadith the istihbab of wearing the aqiq ring. We have within our hadith the origin of the aqiq. Why is there so much importance? There is thawab and there is great reward and benefit in ways wearing the fayroza and wearing the Durrin Najaf and every other stone from the Yaqut. All of them, we have hadith in regards to these. You know the concept, again, Bain al-Qawsayn, we open lots of brackets, close them and move with our bahath. Bain al-Qawsayn, earth stones. You see the concept of earth stones? In that they have healing powers within them. And if you were to research on earth stones and you research into the amount of people who are going through self-therapy and the effect of earth stones on them, this is a concept tamaman 110% taken from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, because they're the first ones to come forward and explain to us the effect of these stones, which are now named as earth stones, the fayroza and the yaqut and so on and so forth. For example, you have the fayroza. The fayroza we have within our hadith, the fayroza ring protects the person who wears it from hasad. Hasad, or the evil eye. You will find many times, even with the fayroza ring, if you have been exposed to hasad, a crack appears across the ring. And many times, based on the intensity, sometimes the ring or the stone in itself shatters. Why shouldn't mock things like this? Because we have within our hadith is one thing. It should be mutlaq. Once the Imam says, it says. But ithbat, you find that even non-Muslims come forward. This entire concept of hasad emanates from one major concept that all contemporary thinkers even agree to right now. The concept of negative energy. You will find in human psychology, they come forward and they say, and even in business motivational talks, they come forward and they say, do not surround yourself with negative people. Why? Because negativity emanates and these vibes can actually have an impact on you. Show for what the science is saying today. The negativity that the person feels in his heart can affect your ruh, can affect your soul. For the concept of hasad emanates from here, and the fayroza as an earthstone prevents this, protects you from this. And you have even now within contemporary science where they have proven that earth stones are healing stones for people who are scarred from negativity. Research and you find this. For you have the fayroza stone, protects you from hasad. The aqiq has a merit of its own. Whether the aqiq with all the grades, we don't want to go into the depth, but the aqiq is an aqiq. Why is the istihbab? We understood the istihbab of wearing the ring on the right hand. But now why the stone aqiq? Now we have within our hadith that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the mountain, the first mountain in Jannah to be created was the mountain of Aqiq. And everything within the heavens attested to the wilaya of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And from the wilaya of Ali Muhammad is the wilaya of Amirul Mu'mineen. From all the creation within the realms of the heavens, the hadith narrates that the mountain of Aqiq was the first mountain to attest to the wilaya of Maulana Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajjal faraj. Ya Allah. And hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the mountain, for your attestation of the wilaya of Amirul Mu'mineen, I shall descend you to the earth, and your stone shall become the alama of every mu'min that you have attested to Amir. For high, these have deep concepts that are rooted to our ideology and our faith system. Wearing the ring on the hand and the aqiq. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Alamat al-khams ahibai, 51 rak'ah, wearing the ring on the right. And from wearing the ring on the right, the preference or one of the many preferences is the ring of aqiq. Number 3, you have sajda ta'fir al-jabin, which means to perform the sajda on the earth. Again, I don't want to enter into a bahath which is fiqhi, but to paraphrase from the hadith of the Imam, which is taken from the book Ilal al-Shara'i', why is it that the Shi'as are insistent of performing sajda on turbah, on earth? And we shall have inshallah another lecture from earth, why it is the turab khasatan of Karbala. But on earth, Imam was asked, Yabda Rasulullah, why is it that the Shi'as are insistent on doing sajda on the earth? Look straight away. By you doing sajda on earth, it's a distinctive feature of you being a Shi'a. By you wearing a ring on your right finger, it's a distinctive feature of you being a Shi'a. Be careful how Allah Azza wa Jal through the Ahlul Bayt has stipulated actions that distinguish you and your character as a Shia of Ahlul Bayt, and do not fall in the traps of those who want to uniformize everything within an ummah. La, there are sometimes your identity is your identity and you have to be proud of your identity. And this is what the Imam pushes through. Doesn't mean we resort back to violence, wala Shia, and these are things that are well known. Tayyib. Why the earth? Comes to the Imam and he asks him, why are we insistent of doing sajda on the earth? The Imam says, when you refer back to the hadith, that the sajda is not to be done on anything that is mahbus or ma'kul afwan or malbus. We do not do sajda on artificial material that is either edible or that can be worn. Any of these materials that you find from the cotton and the rugs and the cloths and this and that. The Imam says we do not place our head on anything that can be consumed or on anything that is materialistic, because sajda means total submission and freedom from those things that are edible or that are materialistic. You are submissive to the Lord of the universe, and you do not worship that which is materialistic. You're not slaves of what you consume. You prostrate on this pure earth from which you were created and to which you will be returned, and you're prostrating to your Lord in that sense. And kalam in this is tawil. But we move. Number 4, al-jahr bi bismillahir rahmanir rahim. The Imam says the alamat of a mu'min is that in his salat, he loudly pronounces Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. See, Ahibbai, when you are reciting your salat furada, there are certain salat that are to be recited loudly. There are certain salat that are to be recited softly. Even when you're reciting furada, you're reciting inside of your house. Salatul Dhuhr and the Asr, the first 2 rak'ahs are recited, you whisper them. But when it comes to Fajr, when it comes to Salatul Maghrib, when it comes to Salatul Isha, it is not sufficient to whisper the first 2 surahs of your salat, Suratul Hamd and Suratul Ikhlas or any other surah that you recite. It has to be verbally uttered, loudly uttered, such that at least you can hear yourself. Every other dhikr after that can be silent. But these 2 surahs in Salatul Fajr, Maghrib and Isha have to be recited loudly. Tayyib. The Imam says reciting Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim loudly in every salat is a alamat from the alamat of a mu'min. And alama from the alamat of a mu'min. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And you find that reciting Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim loudly is another proclamation of your affiliation to Amirul Mu'mineen, because you have the madrasa of Abu Hanifa who came and removed the Bismillah from the Quran in its entirety, from the Quran and from the Salat. Because when you refer back to the teachings of Abu Hanifa, the predominant belief is that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is not a part of every surah of the Quran. Rather, it is only a marker that begins the that shows us the ending of one surah and the beginning of another surah. And based on this, they do not recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim loudly in their salat before the beginning of a surah. When Imam as-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajjal faraja, was asked about Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim being removed from the surah and khasatan Suratul Hamd, he said, and they took away from the greatest verse of the Quran. Another hadith to paraphrase, if there is any verse of the Quran that is closest to the Ismul A'adham, it is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. For how do you gain proximity towards Allah? Through a salat, when that verse that is supposed to be the Ismul A'adham in itself is removed. So get the pride that you should have after your Takbiratul Ihram when you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Hi, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This one verse of the Quran that is the beginning of your salat, ulama have stated, this just one Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim can take you through a number of emotions, even before you begin your Suratul Hamd. Have you noticed how this concept of khushu is always talked about in salat and khudu' in front of Allah Azza wa Jal? One of the starting points is understanding Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And number one, it's this element of pride that you are from the Shias of Ali Muhammad. Number two, when a person says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and when you utter Rahman and Rahim, and through your mind, like a bolt of lightning, the mercy of Allah, all the mercies Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has had upon you during that day or in that last hour, flash through your mind. And it flashes through your mind like a bolt of lightning. How the ni'mas of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I've used these ni'mas of Allah to disobey Him, and yet He has given me permission to stand in front of Him. My words are chosen very carefully. He has given me permission to stand in front of Him. And the wave of emotions pass through your mind and your heart. And this is even before you have started Alhamdulillah. Jahar bi Bismillah. Two hadith and we end this. The kalam was supposed to be on Ziyarat al-Arba'in, but perhaps we'll not be able to cover it today because of the time. So inshallah for the next majlis, inshallah. Because the fifth sign from the alamat of a mu'min is the Ziyarat al-Arba'in, and we are in these days for the Ziyarah of Arba'in. Shufu, in regards to Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Hadith al-Sharif on authority of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajjal faraj. Ulama will come forward. Ulama, Ahlul Bayt and the A'imma themselves show us, Ahibai, the secrets of Ma'rifah and the secrets of ascending the ranks of Iman is not through complex sets of action. It is within the most simplest of actions, but the simplest of actions done with Ma'rifah. Shufu. Hadith al-Sharif by the Holy Prophet. إِذَا قَالَ الْعَبْدَ عِنْدَ مَنَامِهِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ. If a worshipper was to say before he goes to bed, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and somebody takes the time, see what is the tafsir of Bismillah, what does it mean for Rahman, what does it mean for Rahim, walau, even if it was at a very basic level, it adds value. Whoever recites Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim before going to bed, shufu Allah, shket Rahman and Rahim. Yaqulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says straight away, Ya malaikati, O my angels, uktubu nafasahu ila sabah. Record every breath of his as a tasbih until he wakes up in the morning. Person sees in the span of 6 hours, 7 hours, 5 hours that a person sleeps. How many times, how many breaths do you take in these 5 hours? And these are written as tasbih. How Allah Azza wa Jal is Rahman and Rahim. If a person was to die in his sleep, ba'ad, his last act has been tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if he wakes up in the morning, he has a line of a'mal. This one breath in our mizan that could have tilted the scales between Jahannam and Jannah, a mountain of these are added to your safahat in the morning. Person who recites this and wakes up with all these hasanat, ba'ad, doesn't wake up depressed, doesn't wake up tired of life, doesn't wake up in a bad mood. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Second, سئل النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد هل يأكل الشيطان مع الإنسان? Does shaitan eat and have meals with people? Of course he does. The Prophet said yes. He said how? Look at what the Prophet says. كل مائدة لم يذكر فيها بسم الله عليها يأكل معها الشيطان. Any ma'idah, any table that you sit on in which a meal is eaten without the recitation of Bismillah, Baba, your next one sitting on the table next to you is shaitan. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ مُبِينٌ. Now imagine, and we had this in the Muharram majalis, that the body is connected to the ruh. The way we treat our body affects our ruh. Sahih, and we said, Imam al-Hussein said to the people on the day of Ashura, guidance doesn't have an impact on you. Why? لَقَدْ مُلِئَتْ بُطُونَكُمْ بِالْحَرَامِ, because your stomachs are filled with haram. Now imagine the one eating with you is shaitan. Does that meal, halal as it may be in terms of earned from halal risk and the dabiha halal, does it not have an impact on the ruh, Lola? Has an impact on the ruh. لم يذكر فيه بسم الله يأكل معها الشيطان ويرفع الله البركة عنها. The barakah from the food is taken away when Bismillah is not recited. Sometimes food supposed to be shifa, supposed to be a cure, but when Bismillah is not recited, that barakah is removed. Food which is supposed to be a source of positive nutrition, when that Bismillah is not recited, the benefit of the nutrition disappears inside of it. The words that we recite have an impact on our soul and what is consumed towards our soul. The smallest thing of Bismillah. We think it's the smallest thing. The Imam says it's one of the biggest things. Shufu, this is the last hadith before. Na'i. Usually we don't keep record of time. Sometimes, when Mukhi is sitting around you, straight away by default you start to think about time, even when you don't have to worry about time. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Hadith al-Sharif by our sixth Imam. Wali Rabbama, and this shows us the azamah of Bismillah. And that it's not something that is just taught to young children in terms of akhlaq in madrasa. The elders are in more need of this than anything. وَلِرُبَّمَا تَرَكَ فِي إِفْتِتَاحِ أَمْرٍ بَعْضُ الشِّيعَةِنَا بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ فَيَمْتَحِنُهُ اللَّهُ بِمَكْرُوهٍ. Imam Sadiq says, perhaps from our Shias, they begin a certain act, whether it's standing up, whether it's sitting down, whether it's going to work, whether it's driving to work, whether it's starting to revise for an exam, whether it's anything, any action that you do, any limb that you move, any breath that you take, any action that you begin. He says, and some of our Shias, they don't recite Bismillah, or they forget to recite the Bismillah in whatever action, big or small that it is. The Imam says, فَيَمْتَحِنُ اللَّهُ بِمَكْرُوهٍ. Straight away, because the Shia neglected the recitation of Bismillah, straight away Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall descend upon him a bala. Straight away, one difficulty or the other falls upon you. Why? This imtihan, this bala that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bala is of two types. This is the last bracket for the night. Bala is of two types. Sometimes bala is to discipline somebody. Sometimes bala is to give them a reminder through difficulty. Baba, come back. And in that case, it's a rahmah. The fourth Imam elaborates on this within the hadith. But hadith over here says, فَيَمْتَحِنُهُ اللَّهُ بِمَكْرُوهٍ. Allah Azza wa Jal tests him with some sort of difficulty. Many times, we start a certain job, there's no barakah in it. We study for a certain exam, but the results don't come in. Sometimes you put in effort planning for a certain action, domestic, business-wise, house-wise, whatever-wise. But you see there's no grace in it. No, somewhere, somehow, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim was forgotten and not recited. And Allah puts this difficulty upon you, lest you may sit back and think, why did this action go wrong? And you return back to Allah Azza wa Jal and remember His mercy upon you, seeking the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the blessing of Allah in every act that we perform is guaranteed through the recitation of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Amma the fifth alamat, which is the alamat Ziyarat al-Arba'in, and khasatan Ziyarat Imam al-Hussein, inshallah, in the following lecture in regards to the adab and the akhlaq and the sunan and the falsafa of the ziyarah, inshallah. Hibai, from the Masa'ib of Ahlul Bayt. And these are the nights of great Masa'ib. For a person who lives the tragedy of Sayyid al-Shuhada. You know, from 11th of Muharram, now until Arba'in, these are perhaps one of the greatest tragedies that befell upon the women of Ahlul Bayt. You look now, the 20th of Shahrul Muharram, it's during these days that the Sabaya of Ali Muhammad, the women that were taken as prisoners, are traveling between the city of Kufa towards the city of Sham. Within the deserts, passing through the different cities. We have lecture on which cities they passed through and what happened inside of these cities. The manner in which they were mistreated, the manner in which they were insulted, the manner in which they were assaulted. Two things. Sayyidah Sukaina alayha salam says that hurt us between Kufa to Sham were the assaults and the insults. Such that Sayyidah Sukaina says, whenever we saw the head of our father on the top of a spear and we cried, it says, Shimar al-La'in would come to us and he would shout at us in our faces. He would insult my father, Hussein ibn Ali, and they would shout insults on our grandfather, Amirul Mu'mineen. And you know, when a person, the Khawarij, when they shout insults, yani foul language and vague language against Amirul Mu'mineen. He says, when they insulted our father and our grandfather, and we continued to cry, they forced us to stop crying and to hold back our tears. When we could not control ourselves, Shimar al-La'in took out the whip and whipped us on the back and the shoulder. Shukaina said, Shimmer shouted at me, stop crying, and then he whipped me. The pain of the whip on my back and my shoulder, more tears came out, so he whipped me again. He said to us, Sukaina said, oh Shimmer, I cry over here, not in remembrance for my father, but from the pain of the whip on my shoulder. Which is why one of the nights the Rawi mentions when the La'in came and he whipped Sukaina on the shoulder. When he whipped Sukaina on the shoulder, she cried out, Ya Fatima. She remembered her grandmother Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra when she was whipped by the Taghut behind the burning door. Amir al-Mu'mineen says the bruise on the shoulder and the back of Sayyidah Zahra remained until the end of her life. In the same way that the bruise remained on the backs and on the shoulders of the women of Ali Muhammad until they were buried. Allah. Is the Masaib with Sayyidah Sukaina and Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra tonight, huh? On the way to Sham, one of the nights when Shimr al-La'in whipped Sayyidah Sukaina, and she cried out, oh my grandmother Fatima, Allah. She was whipped so intensely, Sayyidah Sukaina fainted from the pain. Allah. You know how gently the women are supposed to be treated in that side. Allah. Sayyidah Sukaina said she fainted. When I fainted, I saw my grandmother Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra. And she said to me, my daughter Sukaina, when she sees her mother Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, her grandmother, she says, oh my grandmother Sayyidah Fatima, if only you could see how the enemies are treating us. Oh my mother Sayyidah Fatima, if you could see how we're taken as prisoners, you would weep for us. Allah. Sayyidah Sukaina says to Sayyidah Zahra, if you saw how they treated us, you would weep for us. Look at the response of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra. Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra says, my daughter Sukaina, do not say. If you were to see, you would weep. Because I swear to you, Sukaina, I, Fatima al-Zahra, have been walking behind the head of my son Hussein from Kufa. Allah. This is the last part of the Masaib. The narrations mention that when the Sabaya of Ali Muhammad were taken to Kufa, the blessed head of Sayyid al-Shuhada was brought into the Qasr of Ibn Ziyad. Allah, this is the final part of the Masaib. Ahibai, the narrations mention the blessed head of Imam al-Hussein was placed on attached. Ibn Ziyad al-Layn looks at the head and he begins to smile. Zainab is weeping, Rabab is weeping, Layla is weeping, Sukaina is weeping. At that moment, to increase the grief of Ali Muhammad, Ibn Ziyad takes a rod and begins to hit the teeth of Imam al-Hussein. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Matam Hussein, Matam Sukaina.
نام ہے زینب ہے نام ہے زینب ہے شام ہے زینب ہے شام ہے زینب ہے شام یا خیر العمل حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی خیر العمل سب مل کے یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے کلثوم 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 کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے مقتل میں بیچنے کو ہر بیوی اپنے اپنے بچے سجا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے مقتل میں بیچنے کو ہر بیوی اپنے اپنے بچے سجا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے سب بیویاں ہے قیدی ہوتا کیسس کیا ہے سر پہ نہیں ردائے ہاتھوں میں رسیاں ہے محسوس ہو رہا ہے اکبر کی شام کیسے بارات جا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے بھیا حسین میں ہوں تیری بد نصیب بہنا کرنے کو تجھ پہ قربان اولاد تھے سکینہ جب کہ ہر ایک بیوی تم بے نثار کرنے بیٹوں کو لا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے مقتل میں بیچنے کو ہر بیوی اپنے اپنے بچے سجا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے اے کاش میری یا رب کوئی اولاد ہوتی پیا کو پیش کرتی اجری میں یوں نہ روتی میں بھی اولاد تیری
بھائی کا صدقہ کیا دوں یہ بات کھا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے قاتل کی سیدوں کی امت رسول کی ہے اجڑے گی کربلا میں چوری بطول کی ہے پیاسے مریں گے بچے امت فرات پہ یوں پیرے بٹھا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے کلثوم کربلا میں آنسو بہا رہی ہے یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین ہائے شام ہائے زینب ہائے شام ہائے زینب ہائے شام یا اللہ خیر العمل یا اللہ خیر العمل یا اللہ خیر العمل یا اللہ خیر العمل یا اللہ خیر العمل
آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں
آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آج میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں
تیرے جھولے کو سکینہ رو رو کے چومتی ہے تجھے رہے میں ڈھونڈتی ہے تیری موت کی خبر میں تیری موت کی خبر میں
کیسے اسے سناؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں
تیرے جھولے کو سکینہ رو رو کے چومتی ہے تجھے رہے میں ڈھونڈتی ہے تیری موت کی خبر میں تیری موت کی خبر میں
کیسے اسے سناؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں
بیٹا تمہارا قاتل میرے سامنے نے کھڑا ہے جانے کیوں ہنس رہا ہے چادر بھی لٹ گئی ہے چادر بھی لٹ گئی ہے
منہ کس طرح چھپاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں
نیزے سے گر رہا ہے ننھا سا سر تمہارا دل روتا ہے ہمارا میرے ہاتھ تو بندھے ہیں میرے ہاتھ تو بندھے ہیں
سر کس طرح اٹھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں
جھولے کے ساتھ بیٹا میرے ہاتھ جل گئے ہیں ظالم بھی ہنس رہے ہیں تیری آخری نشانی تیری آخری نشانی کس طرح سے بچاؤں
اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین محمد وآل محمد صلوات
زیارت عاشورہ
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا حسين الشهيد ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشيائهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله، إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاتبة، ولعن الله ابن مرجانة، ولعن الله عمر بن السعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك بأبي أنت وأمي يا أبا عبد الله. لقد عظم مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشيائكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم، وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة، وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة، وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله، وأن يرزقني طلب ثانكم مع إمام هدى مهدي ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته، مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد، العين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله، في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعنة منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. All together. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحابه. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني، وابدأ به أولا ثم لعن الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا، ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجانة وعمر بن سعد وشمرة وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. سجدة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين، لك على مصابهم، الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود، وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين، ومحمد بن علي باقر، وجعفر بن محمد الصادق، وموسى الكاظم، وعلي الرضا، ومحمد تقي، وعلي النقي، والحسن العسكري، ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، الأمان من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن وكعبة الإيمان، وإمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.